everyone, my name is AJ, and I haven't come up with a good intro yet. Today I'll be making my own versions of ink and error sands for an animated series. Disclaimer, if you haven't rotted your brains out in the Undertale alternate universe community, you might be a little lost. I'll try to explain as we go along, but really I've been so deeply ingrained in this fandom for so much of my life that I don't really remember what it's like to be on the outside of it anymore. For those who don't know, I've been working on an animated Undertale series called Otherverse for a few years now. The story follows our main character, Nightmare the 13th, who I'll be calling 13 to make things a little less confusing. She is the current negativity outcode, which basically means that she's the goddess of misery. The story follows her journey to restore balance to the multiverse and heal from her trauma with her found family. In the last video, I designed the first ever negativity and positivity outcodes for a little snippet of backstory that'll appear in the first few minutes of the first episode. Today, I'll be designing two more of the first outcodes, Ink and Error. Ink is based off of Ink Sands by Kamyet from Tumblr, and Error is based off of Error Sands by Lover of Piggies, who is also from Tumblr. Now, if I were doing this project in the same way that I were doing my Has-Been Hotel AU, I would have done more in-depth research on each character that I'm adapting. I didn't do that. I'm basing my redesigns off of the research my 14-year-old self did back when Undertale AUs were at their peak. This means I can no longer tell the difference between popular headcanons, my own delusions, and the actual canon anymore. However, none of that is important because I've made my own thing. Now allow me to introduce you to it. In my first real video in this series, I introduced the concept of outcodes, 6 beings that belong to no one universe and keep the multiverse balanced and in proper working order. Each outcode is paired with an equal opposing force. Ink is the creation outcode, Error is the destruction outcode. Let's get out of this exposition dump and actually talk about them, shall we? Similar to Nightmare and Dream, I first designed these two a long time ago. So long ago that I don't really remember very much about my design process. But I will do my best to explain anyway. Error was really easy. I made his cloak real big, took away his pants privileges, and made his arms real long. Error's got these really cool string powers where the stripes on his face can turn into strings when he touches them. He can then use these strings to Spider-Man around and stuff, which is pretty cool. I thought it would be cool to give him like some more spiderish energy with these big long arms and big long thingies. I also gave him flip-flops. The original version has slippers, but I thought it would be funnier if he made like slapping noises on the ground when he's running around. My first pass on Ink looks way different than what I eventually ended up on. I was initially happy with him, but when I actually got into animating, I realized there was something about his face shape that was really difficult for me to draw over and over again. That, and it didn't really fit like he fit into my usual aesthetic. So I did a second pass. This time I based my design off of my favorite version of Ink, Tiny Ink. He's a little handmade plushie that my little sister made a few years ago. I have no idea where he is right now, but if I find him, I'll put a picture of him in here. In my second pass, I was thinking a lot more about shapes and silhouettes than I was about body types. It doesn't matter what the body type looks like nearly as much if the clothes on top of it are insane. Since I had decided big shirt for Error, I decided big pants for Ink. Really make them complete opposites, you know? For a second, I considered giving him heels that he straps onto his bare feet, which is extremely funny to me, and I kind of wish I had gone with it. But it's a little difficult to tell what's going on down there, so I decided to just give him these weird anime socks that expose the toes and heel. Colors were a challenge. I made their concept art before I had updated my color chart to what it is today, so they were both in need of an update. Here we are in Ink Pass number 3. In this third pass, I wanted to take my second pass and make it as cute as physically possible. Ink and Dream are on the same team, and I want both of them to have that insane magical girl energy. While Dream is the more serene and graceful type of magical girl, Ink is the more chaotic type. One of those little annoying balls of energy that are constantly bouncing off the walls and exploding things and stuff. Sparkles. Sparkles everywhere type. Type boy. I think he would use glitter bombs because it's just he would totally use glitter bombs. For his colors, I decided on dark brown for confidence, pink for passion, cream for hope, and cyan for curiosity. The black that's being used here is purely used as a neutral and doesn't represent hatred in this instance. The original Ink had the ability to create things out of paint and carried around this huge brush that he used to channel his powers. My version of Ink works a lot more like Splatoon. A hard flat brush seemed like the easiest type of paintbrush for me to animate, so that's what I drew. I also gave him a twin-tailed scarf, and for the final touches, I covered him up in paint splatters. Ink's backstory doesn't really matter all that much. We just don't have time to explore it in the actual show. So thank you everyone who's watching this video. You're getting bonus content! Much like Nightmare and Dream, Ink was created directly by the wolf. He was told his role in keeping the multiverse balanced and then left to his own devices. The world he resides in is called the Doodle Sphere. It's kind of like the hallway between universes. It's filled with pieces of paper where the code of AUs is stored. This is the place where Ink does all of his creating. He is in charge of creating new AUs. The wolf has already created a collection of base AUs that cannot be changed, entered, destroyed, or interacted with in any way. Ink can use these AUs to base his own creations off of. He can keep on making variations of variations of variations until he can finally create something new. Error is the total opposite. Error is responsible for erasing AUs to conserve space. There's only so much space in the multiverse and only so many pieces of code that can be used to create new AUs. Only the wolf can create new code, so in order for Ink to create, he needs Error to break old AUs down into smaller pieces for him to reuse. Ink is of course oblivious to this fact, and frankly so is Error. Error takes a much more animalistic approach to life. He runs on instinct. He doesn't plan for the future, he just does whatever feels good in the moment. Since the destruction of AUs only needs to be done every so often, Error spends the majority of his time in the Anti-Void. The Anti-Void is a space of pure nothing. It's one of the few places he feels completely comfortable in because there's no stimulation in there at all. It exists within the Doodle Sphere, kind of like a bubble underwater. Everything parts to make way for wherever it chooses to drift. Error's second pass was remarkably easy. I changed very little because I liked his first iteration so much. I simplified the cloak a bit so that it's only just two large sleeves that connect in the middle. Basically a poncho but with a couple extra steps. I also simplified his sandals to be easier to draw and made him lankier. After that it was time for updating the colors. Again, black is used as a neutral here. The other colors are dark blue for sorrow, royal blue for distrust, dark red for fear or anxiety, and a few little plops of hope. Error has a speckled soul, sorrow with flecks of distrust, and one singular fleck of hope. Error usually doesn't feel much of anything, but when he does feel emotions, they're usually pretty bad. He hasn't ever formed any attachments or relationships. He's tried kidnapping a few times, but he always follows the urge to delete them sooner or later. Delayed gratification? He does not know her. Even still, he's incredibly lonely. His destructive nature and his vulnerable emotional state made him the perfect target for our lovely little vine boy, Nightmare. Since Nightmare was an outcode, Error never experienced any urges to kill him. He couldn't delete him anyway, at least not in the ways that he does with other people. He would have to physically murder him, which he has no interest in doing. Any outcode could have befriended Error at any time and made them useful to themselves if they wanted, but Nightmare was the first to actually go out and do it. He made Error love him platonically and manipulated him to wipe out the most hopeful monster types in AUs to make himself more powerful. In return, Nightmare was supposed to kill Ink so that he could never create anything ever again, and Error could live a normal life. Nightmare did not follow through on his promise. Instead, he captured Ink with the intent of forcing him to create more miserable AUs to feed off of, and preemptively killed Error before he even realized what was happening. As I mentioned earlier, Ink paired up with Dream to fight Nightmare, though his reasons for doing so are far more stupid and shallow than Error's. Their motives are barely even comparable. Why did Ink decide to be on Dream's team instead of Nightmare's? Because Nightmare made friends with Error first, and Ink doesn't like Error. Why even get involved at all then? Because he was bored. Fighting a bad guy sounded like fun. Neither Ink or Error have strong morals. Nightmare's decision on which of them to talk to first was vital. If Nightmare had decided to talk to Ink first, creation outcodes would be seen as inherently evil in the modern times in which Otherverse is actually set. It easily could have gone either way, which I think is far more interesting than just one is evil and one is good. I don't have a good way to end this video. I think that's it for now. I think we're good. That's all I got. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and a special thanks to my patron, Mercer Scott Holt. You're the greatest. If you want to support me, there are links to my Patreon and other socials in the description. I also take commissions. Here are my prices. If you want one, you can order them on Ko-fi, or you can DM me through Instagram or Discord. I'll see you all next week in a super cool video about, something or other. Bye!